Most relationships don't fall apart because of one big moment. They fall apart quietly. Slowly. Through small behaviors that seem harmless at first. A dismissive tone. A moment of indifference. A habit of not really listening. A small comment that leaves the other person feeling unseen. These moments rarely look dramatic. In fact, many of them pass by almost unnoticed. No shouting. No arguments. No obvious crisis. Just small emotional fractures that accumulate over time. And that is what makes them so dangerous. Because when people think about relationship problems, they usually imagine major issues, betrayal, conflict, or a dramatic breakdown. But the truth is that many relationships begin weakening long before those moments ever appear. They weaken through patterns. Through daily habits. Through behaviors that slowly chip away at trust, respect, and emotional safety. And here is the most difficult part to accept. Many of these behaviors are not done with bad intentions. In fact, they are often done by people who genuinely love each other. They happen because people become comfortable. They become distracted. They assume the relationship will take care of itself. But relationships are living systems. They respond to how they are treated every day. Just like a garden, they grow when they are nurtured. And they slowly deteriorate when they are neglected. The problem is that emotional neglect rarely looks dramatic. It looks like silence. It looks like impatience. It looks like taking the other person for granted. And when these patterns repeat long enough, the connection between two people begins to change. Conversations become shorter. Warmth begins to fade. Small misunderstandings turn into deeper emotional distance. And one day, both people may look at each other wondering how something that once felt so strong became so fragile. The truth is that the damage didn't happen overnight. It happened quietly. Through the small behaviors no one thought were important at the time. Today we are going to explore those behaviors. Not to assign blame, but to create awareness. Because the moment you begin recognizing these patterns is the moment you gain the ability to change them. And sometimes, the smallest changes can rebuild the strongest connections. Part 1: When attention slowly disappears. One of the quietest ways a relationship begins to weaken is through the gradual loss of attention. Not dramatic neglect. Not obvious disrespect. Just the slow fading of presence. At the beginning of most relationships, attention comes naturally. Two people listen closely to each other. They notice small details. They remember what the other person says, how they feel, what excites them, and what worries them. In those early stages, attention feels effortless because curiosity is high. Each person wants to understand the other. But as time passes, something subtle can begin to change. Familiarity replaces curiosity. Routine replaces attentiveness. And slowly, attention begins to drift. A partner starts speaking while the other person scrolls through their phone. A story is shared, but the response is distracted. A concern is mentioned, yet it receives only a quick nod or a brief reply. None of these moments seem serious on their own. In fact, most people barely notice them when they happen. But relationships are shaped by patterns, not isolated moments. When these small lapses of attention happen repeatedly, they begin sending a quiet message. The message is not spoken, but it is felt. What I'm saying isn't very important. Over time, this emotional signal begins to affect how safe someone feels opening up. A partner may start sharing less about their day. They may stop bringing up things that bother them. They may decide that certain thoughts or feelings are better kept to themselves. And this is where emotional distance begins. Not because people stop caring, but because they stop feeling fully heard. Human beings are deeply wired to respond to attention. When someone listens with genuine interest, it creates emotional connection. It communicates respect, value, and presence. But when attention disappears, the opposite effect begins to unfold. Even if love still exists, the connection begins to feel thinner. This is why many couples reach a confusing stage in their relationship where nothing appears terribly wrong, yet something important feels missing. Conversations become more functional than meaningful. Questions become shorter. Moments of genuine listening become rare. Both people continue living together, yet the emotional closeness that once felt natural begins to fade quietly. And because there is no dramatic conflict, the problem often goes unnoticed until the distance has already grown. But the encouraging truth is that attention can be rebuilt. And rebuilding it does not require grand gestures or dramatic changes. It begins with very small decisions. Looking at your partner when they speak. Putting distractions aside during conversations. Asking follow-up questions because you truly want to understand their thoughts. Remembering details they shared earlier. These small behaviors may seem simple, but their emotional impact is powerful. They signal something that every person longs to feel inside a relationship. I matter to you. And when someone consistently feels that message again, the emotional bridge between two people begins to strengthen once more. Because attention, more than almost anything else, is the quiet language of love. Part 2, the slow erosion of respect. Another quiet behavior that can slowly damage a relationship is something people often overlook. It is the gradual erosion of respect. Most people imagine disrespect as something obvious, yelling, insults, or open hostility. But in many relationships, it rarely starts that way. Instead, it appears in subtle forms. A sarcastic comment during a disagreement. Interrupting your partner before they finish speaking. Correcting them quickly, especially in front of others. Rolling your eyes when they express a concern. Responding with impatience when they are trying to explain how they feel. Each of these moments may seem small on its own. In fact, many people dismiss them as harmless or temporary. They might say they were just joking, tired, or having a stressful day. But relationships are shaped by patterns. When these behaviors happen repeatedly, they begin sending a powerful emotional signal. The signal is simple, but deeply felt. Your voice does not matter as much as mine. When a person begins feeling that message over time, their behavior inside the relationship changes. They may start choosing their words more carefully. They may hesitate before sharing thoughts or opinions. They may avoid bringing up concerns because they expect their feelings to be minimized or dismissed. And slowly, something important begins to fade. Emotional safety. Respect is one of the foundations that allows two people to feel comfortable being their authentic selves. When it is present, conversations remain open. Differences in opinion can be discussed without fear. But when respect begins to weaken, even small disagreements can feel threatening. A simple conversation can turn defensive. Misunderstandings escalate faster. Both people begin protecting themselves rather than understanding each other. This is when the tone of the relationship begins to change. What once felt warm and natural can begin to feel tense. What once felt like teamwork can begin to feel like quiet competition. And often, neither person realizes exactly when the shift happened. That is because respect rarely disappears overnight. It fades through small daily interactions that seem insignificant in the moment. But the encouraging truth is that respect can be rebuilt just as quietly as it was weakened. It begins with awareness. Paying attention to how you speak during disagreements. Allowing your partner to finish their thoughts without interruption. Acknowledging their feelings even when you see things differently. Respect does not mean avoiding difficult conversations. In fact, healthy relationships require honest discussions. But honesty delivered with patience and dignity strengthens the bond between two people. When someone feels respected, even during conflict, they remain emotionally open. They remain willing to listen. And they remain willing to work through problems together. Because in the end, love may be what brings two people together. But respect is what allows that love to survive the everyday pressures of life. Part 3, when emotional distance begins to grow. One of the most painful things about relationships is that emotional distance rarely arrives suddenly. It grows quietly, almost invisibly. Two people can still live in the same home, share meals, talk about their day, and appear perfectly fine from the outside. But underneath the surface, something important may already be changing. The connection that once felt effortless begins to feel heavier. Conversations become shorter. The warmth that used to exist in simple moments slowly fades. And the most difficult part is that many couples cannot point to a single moment when things changed. Because the distance was not created by one event. It was created by many small moments that slowly weakened the bond between them. A partner stops sharing certain thoughts because they feel misunderstood. Another partner begins assuming things are fine because no one is openly complaining. Both people continue their routines, unaware that the relationship is quietly drifting into emotional silence. This is how many relationships begin losing their depth. Not through dramatic conflict, but through the gradual disappearance of emotional connection. People begin protecting themselves instead of opening themselves. Instead of bringing concerns to each other, they keep them inside. Instead of asking questions, they assume. Instead of seeking understanding, they withdraw. And slowly, the emotional space between two people becomes wider. The irony is that most of the time, both partners still care deeply about each other. But the habits that once created closeness have been replaced by habits that create distance. Less curiosity. Less patience. Less emotional attentiveness. Over time, the relationship begins to operate more like a partnership of responsibilities rather than a connection between two people who truly feel seen. This is when loneliness can appear even inside a relationship. Not the loneliness of being physically alone, but the loneliness of feeling emotionally unseen by the person who once understood you best. It is one of the most confusing experiences a person can have. Because they are not technically alone. Yet they feel isolated. And when this emotional gap continues growing, misunderstandings become more frequent. Small frustrations begin carrying deeper emotional weight. Things that once would have been resolved quickly now linger longer than they should. The relationship starts feeling fragile instead of stable. But here is something very important to understand. Emotional distance is not always the end of a relationship. Often, it is a signal. A signal that the connection between two people needs attention again. The same small behaviors that once created distance can be replaced with behaviors that restore closeness. It begins with curiosity returning to the relationship. Asking how your partner is truly feeling instead of assuming. Listening with patience instead of preparing a quick response. Showing appreciation for the small things that often go unnoticed. These actions may appear simple, but they send a powerful emotional message. They say, I still see you. They say, you still matter to me. And sometimes, those reminders are exactly what allows a relationship to reconnect after a period of quiet distance. Because strong relationships are not the ones that never face challenges. They are the ones where two people notice the small warning signs early enough to choose each other again. And that choice, repeated consistently, is what rebuilds the closeness that once brought them together. The small things that save a relationship. Before we end, take a moment to think about something important. Relationships rarely break because of one single moment. More often, they slowly weaken through the small things people stop paying attention to. A conversation that could have been listened to more carefully. A moment when patience could have replaced frustration. A time when appreciation could have been expressed but was left unsaid. These moments seem small while they are happening. But over time, they shape the emotional atmosphere between two people. And the encouraging truth is this. The same small behaviors that slowly damage a relationship can also quietly heal it. Listening with real attention. Speaking with respect even when emotions are high. Showing appreciation for the person beside you instead of assuming they already know how you feel. These actions do not require grand gestures. They require awareness, intention, and the willingness to protect the connection you share with someone. Because strong relationships are not built on perfection. They are built on two people who are willing to keep learning how to care for each other better. If this message made you pause and reflect, it likely means something inside you recognizes how important these small moments really are. And if you found value in this conversation, take a moment to support the channel. Subscribe, like the video, and share it with someone who might need this reminder today. Every time you do that, you help these messages reach more people who want to strengthen their relationships, improve themselves, and build healthier connections with the people they care about. And before you go, ask yourself one simple question. What is one small behavior you can change today that could make your relationship stronger tomorrow? Sometimes, the smallest changes are the ones that protect the most important things in our lives. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next message.